Oh, I forgot to turn on the lights, y'all. I'm turning on the lights, y'all. Okay, here we go. All right. Well, it is. I think I'm just going to make a short one out of this. So welcome back to all of those of you that are joining back in. Let me make sure I actually have the comments up because I forgot to do that too. Forgot to do everything tonight. You know how it goes. Anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about what the deal is that what's going on in the software community, because there's something that is seriously wrong. So let me. It's not. Well, let me just go into it. Okay, so by the way, I'm AJ O'Neill. Welcome to the channel. If you find this to be entertaining or useful, or just the sound of my voice helps you fall asleep, consider a like and a sub. When we get to that point, not trying to push anything on you prematurely here. But okay, so I made this tweet and I said, hey, I'm looking to recruit people, potential for big bucks, and it's not trying to be a quick scheme or anything. It's just that there is a potential for big bucks if you can code quickly, because the tasks are priced such that basically it's more realistic to what I think software needs to be, which is that senior developers need to get more reward, because as it stands currently, it makes no sense to not hire a senior developer, in my opinion. Because if you can hire someone that can get stuff done 4 times faster, and they're not even twice as much in cost, then why in the world would you not do that? And I think there's not a whole lot of extra reward you get for being a senior developer, and I think that might be part of this problem. But this is something that I believe that pretty much my first year of college, I could have solved this. I did something similar. So I say, here's a quick litmus test for me. Just here's a Twitter interview process, right? Could you describe the process of transforming JSON to YAML in a tweet? So describe the process, and maybe there's some room for ambiguity here. You'll see what I'm talking about in just a second. And by the way, if the person who I'm referring to, in this tweet, I don't mean any offense to you. I think that there's a problem in the industry. Oh, what's up? Learned a lot from your video. Thanks for best content. Hey, Bike Out, thanks for joining in, and feel free to comment, ask any questions here. I'm just going to get back to going through this, but I want to acknowledge you coming in. Thanks. So, and then how long would it take you to code up a solution by hand, right? So I'm kind of hoping, to me, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but can you describe the process of transforming JSON to YAML? And, in a tweet, meaning just like, give me the short version, not, don't actually go write the code. How long do you think it would take to code up the solution by hand? Now, I think that, this is a litmus test, meaning this is just a quick, pass fail. I'm just trying to figure out, are you a developer? I don't want to waste my time on, here I am wasting my time reviewing this, but anyway. So given, and then here's another question. So 3 questions. Given a weekly JSON export with 200 blog posts with an average of 40 comments each, how would you keep an API in sync? And again, I'm going for the technical answer here, but this is a little bit ambiguous. I would basically accept any answer for this because, I'm trying to fit this question in a tweet. It's not a really good question. Whatever. It doesn't matter. The best answer to this would have been to come back with another question of like, what do you mean? That's not clear enough. This should have been clear. Okay, so let's look at this answer. And I pull out this answer because I don't think that this is an exceptional answer. I think that this is a typical answer, and I think that's really a problem. I'm noticing more and more young developers are just throwing out buzzwords that they really have no idea what they mean. But they just throw them out there. Well, or at least I have no idea what they mean, because the buzzwords are coming out so new, and we're just rebranding old things. Okay, so an ETL process, node lib, JSON to YAML. He's misspelled YAML, but whatever, is the easy one. Another option using Python. Is that supposed to be Python? I don't know. That looks like an anagram of Python. I'm not sure if he just got eager on the keyboard there. And last one is pure JavaScript using regex. It's also possible that this is a troll account. Let's see. 36 followers, followed by Amy Knight. I don't know. because there's enough misspellings here that maybe this is just a joke, right? It totally could be. But the thing is, if it's a joke, it's I forget the Poe's law. Is that what it is? It's so close to reality that I can't tell, right? All right, 2. What half a sprint is how long it's going to take. That's a sprint is kind of an arbitrary dead time, but basically that's a week. A dedicated Lambda or microservice can help to have the API ready if your architecture is based in events is better. So again, this could be poor English. This could be a number of things. I think this might have been sarcasm. This may have been utter sarcasm. I may have just been trolled and totally misinterpreted. But again, it's so close to the real responses that I've gotten for other things in the past that it's hard to tell, right? And that's Poe's law, that the more time you spend on the internet, the more difficult it is to determine between extreme answers, which are becoming the norm, and sarcasm. So anyway, let me I'm just going to translate this for those of you that don't know what any of these buzzwords mean. Let me translate basically how this conversation went, which again, it could be total trolling. This may not be a serious answer. I would have thought of using that lib too. Is that actually a library? Well, but I'm asking, but it's a litmus test to see if you're a programmer, right? So the litmus test to see if you're a programmer is not go find someone else's thing from Stack Overflow and copy and paste. That's not being a programmer. That's being a code monkey. And I use that with the appropriate derogatory content, and that makes sense here. I'm looking for somebody, if you want to be making $150 to $200 an hour, you can do it as a code monkey. You can be great at marketing and come up with really crappy solutions, and people they're none the wiser until it breaks and somebody else has to come up and fix it. You can make a lot of money that way. But what I was trying to in this original bit was to capture, hey, I'm looking for somebody that's mid to senior, somebody that's got a few years of experience, and this is something that I think that somebody with a few years of experience ought to do. Anyway, so let me read basically the translation for those of you that are a little less technical or not familiar with some of these buzzwords or terms. So basically, my question is, how would you transform some data? And the answer is, I'd use a data transformation process. ETL is just a buzzword that means transform or migrate data. So that's literally no technical context here. Question, how long would it take you to solve this whiteboard interview problem? That's essentially what I'm asking with the, going from JSON to YAML is a one-to-one conversion. All you need to do is loop. That's it. You recursively loop. That's it. It demonstrates that you know how to use arrays and objects and functions. It is essentially a whiteboard problem. Answer 1 week. So I don't know if this is parody, if this is trolling. I don't know, right? And then the next one is, how would you keep a manual export in sync with a database? Is essentially what I'm asking here. And then the answer is essentially, I'd ask Siri to set a reminder. Okay, so to put this in context, and then you can see my response right here. So for the purposes of this, well, first of all, I just want to pose the question, what, and okay, he comes back, and again, the response is, if I wanted to troll somebody online, I would do what he's doing. I'd be like super dry about it. I said like, I'm trying not to say like, I'd be super dry about it. No rush. I don't know what that means. Thanks for your honest answer. I'm sorry for using too technical words. Seems you're one who loves KISS. Keep it stupid simple. I forgot it was a simple question, not a Fortune 500 hiring process. Again, he could be completely sincere. He could be trolling. You can't tell with the differences, the nuances in how people use English across different cultures. And so I say that the problem here is not that you're using words that are too technical, but it's the opposite. I have no clue. You're just throwing out generic words. I have no clue that you would know how to solve any of these problems. Right. And then again, he responds again, and this makes sense. Right. But I consider being language, infrastructure, OS agnostic is a plus, and knowing frameworks, tools, infra is even better. I don't know, maybe. He's still, at no point has he demonstrated that he would actually know how to solve either of these problems. And the reason for this is, so why would I want to ask someone how to do something by hand that they can do with a library? Well, one, let's just say, do you know how to use the noggin on top of your shoulders? But it's because this basic process is central to so many processes. Any ETL process, which we used to just call migrating data or transforming data, any ETL process is going to be a matter of going through loops and possibly recursing in functions. And I actually do want to try, I'm going to try the 15-minute version. I said that this should take between 2 to 4 hours. And in reality, you could code this up in 15 minutes, maybe less if you're just copying an answer that already existed. But I think we could code this up in 15 minutes. But I say 2 to 4 hours because you get it basically right within 15 minutes. And then you need at least an hour to debug. And then if you wanted to, say, publish it as a package, well, that's another hour. If you're not really familiar with the YAML spec and you need to go cross-reference things, let's add another hour there. So there's a number of, but if you're a mid to senior level developer, you should know what YAML is. So I'm saying that as a mid to senior level developer, I would expect this to take 2 to 4 hours for you to be able to test it and get it mostly right. It doesn't need to be perfect for the purposes of, be a litmus test type thing. But yeah, I don't know where if you were spending, if you needed to spend a week on this, well, you could cut 4 days of that week out just by copying tests from somebody else's library and then making sure that your implementation passes their tests. And assuming that their stuff is right. But I did an episode before where I was talking about, I did something that was pretty simple. I was just translating between different bases, between numbers and different base systems, right? And anyway, so I don't know. I don't know what's going wrong here. I don't know, but I'm getting the sense that someone being able to do something like this is actually incredibly difficult. And this is something that you should be able to do before you leave a boot camp, in my opinion. I think if you can't do that, then something's gone wrong. But anyway, so I want to have a broader discussion with this. I want to actually bring some people in and let's have a roundtable discussion. So if you're interested in that, please leave a comment. I'm going to go ahead and link to the Beyond Code Bootcamp Discord. So if you want to join in on the Discord, there's a thread going for this right now. Let me know that you'd like to join in because I'd like to have a discussion about this and see, is there something that we can do to help people be better prepared for the workforce? Is there something we can do to help people be able to, basically just solve simple problems? But I'm going to write a quick JSON to YAML. Just right here on camera. And I think I get to get the gist of it in 15 minutes. There's going to be bugs. It's going to be wrong. But I just want to kind of demonstrate what this is. This is something, if you don't know how to do this, you're not really going to be able to do any ETL process effectively because you don't know how to loop over rows and fields in different formats and then produce something different. But let's just go ahead and do this. So so JSON is, we're just going to put some really simple stuff in here. It's all going to be super contrived. That's fine. I'm just going to have something that's nested in here. We're going to do nested objects. And we're going to do an array. Well, maybe we should do an array here, and then an array here, and then we need to have at least 2 items if we're going to do it this way. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's see. And then we're just going to put in the array here, apples and bananas. And then here we're going to put, I don't know, red thing, blue thing. So now I've got some basic data that I can convert from one format to another. It'd be good if I also had, let's see, I forget all the metasyntactic variable names, but let's just throw a gralt in here, and then name Grumpy, age 42. And, let's make the age 37, and we'll have another thing in here. Let's just answer is 42. Okay, so this is just, the purpose of this is just this exercises most of what here, we'll do this. Grumpy is false. And then here the name will be Bob. So we're exercising most of what's possible in JSON. And then, yeah, put some null in there too. So there we go. Now we've got some data. Now we need a function. So that's a couple minutes there just doing that bit. And then we're going to go with, to YAML, and we're going to accept data. And essentially, we just need to iterate over this data. So you got to think at the end, not at the beginning. So if I was thinking at the beginning, I would do an object.keys because I'm thinking, oh, well, this data is an object.keys. But I have to think all the way down at the leaf node, right? So all the way down at the leaf node is a string. So I need to handle the case of string, handle the case of Boolean, handle the case of number, handle the case of array, handle the case of object, kind of working. You got to work backwards. So, string, array, object, array, object, array, object. And down here, string, number, null. Null is technically an object, but really it's kind of its own thing. So I'm just going to put null there. So these are all the types that we have to handle that data could be. So let's keep it really simple. We're going to say if string is the type of data, and really it's going to be if string is type of data or number, or we should probably do this. We could do string, number, Boolean dot includes type of data, and we could say or null is equal to data. So basically all the primitive values I've kind of handled here at this point, I think. So let's try that out. Oh, and we're going to do to YAML data here. And first we're just going to do console.log just to print out the data. So if I run this right now, then nothing should happen. I'm just going to put out primitive and data. Really, if it's a type of string, we probably want to put quotes around it. I think what we probably want to do is say json.stringify, because if it's a string, we want to escape it. If it's a number, we can leave it alone. If it's a Boolean, we can leave it alone. If it's null, we can leave it alone. It doesn't need to be quoted. So that should do the right thing for us. All right, and then I guess we would return here because there's nothing else we can do. We can't go any deeper with this. Now let's go up. Let's look at our collection types. We've got array and object. So let's see. If, by the way, feel free to ask any questions or have any more chat. I'm just going through what I asked. For those of you joining in, hello, welcome. I'm AJ O'Neill. I kind of had some discussion earlier. If you want to go watch the previous bit on 2x or something until we catch up here. But basically, I asked what I felt was a pretty simple question. And I don't know if the person's trolling or being sincere because it's just too hard to tell on the internet. But I basically got back buzzword bingo. And I'm saying this, whether or not he's trolling, the problem that I can't tell is because this is a typical answer. People just throw out big enterprise buzzword words. And you can't tell, do you actually know any coding at all? Or did you just go read a blog article from IBM on the latest words to use about it? People are calling backups of a computer data lakes now, it's weird. Anyway, so I'm just seeing, can I get this done in about 15, 20 minutes, get a first version of what I'm asking to be done? Because I consider this essentially a whiteboarding question. So anyway, so let's say if array.is array, because if you don't know this, in JavaScript, an array is actually of the type object, and this is because in the initial version of JavaScript, it was, oh, whoops, this should be data. It was that way. Is there any professional way to commit code, any pattern? Absolutely. So I'm gonna break on this for a second just to give you a resource. So createacraftsmanship.com is where I put most of the best resources that I find on this type of discussion. So let me just throw this in here real quick. Actually, I think I just do this now. Did that work? Yeah. And I think on here, let me check. I think I have something about semantic commits. If I don't, I will add it. No, I don't have anything about semantic commits. So semantic commits. I'm going to see if I can find the one that I like the most real quick. Well, here's one. I'm going to throw this at you real quick. Semantic commits. And I have a little mini series on Git rebase. So if you want to search Beyond Code, YouTube, Git rebase. I don't remember whether I put it on the live channel or the other channel. The playlist is on the Beyond Code Bootcamp channel on YouTube. But I'm just going to make a note to self. Include semantic commits. Because this is just, it's a good pattern to follow. And I don't know that you have to follow it perfectly yet because it's not particularly standardized. But there's some conventions that are pretty common that arise. So that's my answer to that. Thanks for asking that question. All right, so now if array is array, we're going to do to YAML. I'm going to have to return to YAML. We're actually going to have to do, let's see, what are we going to have to do? Return to YAML, no, data.map to YAML. Let's say that should do it. So I'm basically thinking, okay, I'm going to log this out if it's an array. Then we're going to go over the array, and then we're going to log out the values. Now, there's more that we have to do here, but first it's just how do we get down all the way to the bottom and just print out some stuff. So that's what we're working on. So then that should leave us with this must be an object. I'm trying to remember if there's another primitive type in JavaScript that we can have in JSON. I don't think there is. I think it's string, number, boolean, array, object, and null. I think that's the pretty limited set of what we can have in JSON. I'm going to just check real quick. JSON types. Let's see if I can find a reference for this. JSON data types. W3 Schools is actually not bad these days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah. Function date undefined. Got it. And date actually can be represented as a string, but we're not going to handle that case because then you have to do matching on it to determine how to rehydrate it. So some JSON parsers will turn dates back into dates, but that's usually with type hinting. Anyway, so we're pretty good there. So that means must be an object or not a valid JSONable object in the first place. So let's just say we're going to have the given that the object that's handed to us is valid to be put into JSON. Let's just say that is the given. Okay. So then we do object.keys on the data, and then we can do a map. We could do return this here. Map function. There's going to be a key, and so then we're going to return to YAML on data and key. So basically, what we can expect at this point, this is just a preliminary version just to get the juices flowing, is that it's going to iterate through every object and it is going to print out its value. So here we might need to do console.log key k. So object key k. Yeah, because otherwise we lose that information. So we're just looking at to YAML is going to print out a value or go deeper into where something is. So this is not yet actually going to give us YAML. But what we should get is foo, and then we should get bar, and then we should get baz, and then we should get apples and bananas, and then kooks, and then do, and then red thing, blue thing, and then gralt, and then name and Bob and age. Basically all of the English characters. We're not going to get any information about whether it's an array or an object, but we should get basically all the Englishish, codish characters printed out in a straight line is what I'm expecting. Okay, cool. So here's half the battle. If you could just give me this solution and you're not quite sure how to handle the formatting, I'm not upset. you've passed that. If you could do this on a whiteboard in 15 minutes and get this far, I would be happy, because it tells me that your head's in the right place. And if you're not getting further than this, it's all that anxiety of being up in front of the whiteboard and whatever, you know. So let's see if we can make this a little bit better. So what we need to do is, if it is a value from an array, we actually need to be able to prefix a hyphen in front of it. That's part of the YAML spec. So I'm going to represent that real quick. So we're gonna map data. I don't know what to call this. Maybe val. And we're gonna do. Let's see. We're gonna return. Okay. Already, I need to switch these console.logs over to returns, because we need to be getting out of this a string. So let's just start moving this over to a string real quick. So I'm going to return this plus to YAML val, and then we're going to go down here, and then I'm going to return, let's see, that's going to be object key plus k plus probably a new line or something. I mean, again, we're just trying to get to the point of something making some sense here. And let's say, you know, this one will have plus a new line. And again, my goal, I'm not going to get to the full solution here. I'm just trying to get to something that's workable. So let's say, all right, with this one, map. So really what I want is dot join, and then just put the new line here, right? And then same thing here. We got this map, and then we can do dot join, and we can put the new line right here. So maybe we don't need the new line there. We'll see what happens if we just do like this. Okay. Bump, bump, bump. All right, so now, cool. You know, we're getting a little bit closer. So we need something to basically manage new lines and spaces. All right, so how could we do that? So at this point, I think I actually do want to, let's maybe use a template string here, and it's going to be k, and then it's going to be whatever this to YAML is, which I think that at this point, I think I'm still going to do a plus there. I don't like to do full expressions inside of templates. I think that's a bad idea. Oh no, we got some bonkers bots here. Let me just get rid of the bots real quick. By the way, you know, feel free to continue asking questions. If you find this to be useful, I'll go ahead and you know, leave a like, sub if you want to. All right. So what's gonna happen here really? So when we call to YAML, we kind of need each string to finish itself out. So this one makes sense. We want to have a new line after every array. Here, if we have a key, I think it kind of depends on what type of object it is, whether we want to have a new line or whether we want to have a space. Let's see, because in YAML, let's just think about what this would look like in YAML real quick. And again, you know, I'm not going to try to get the full solution here because I'd have to think more about it. But I think what we're looking for is there's an object foo, and then it's going to have, YAML's a little bit weird in this way because it's going to have bar, and then it's going to have this, and then it's going to have baz, and then this is going to have apples, bananas. All right. And then I think we're going to go back to, let's see here, back to kooks. And then that, oh, no. These, do we need this? Hold on, bar. So this is a property. This is an object, and this is a property. So bar and kooks are at the same level. Okay, so that doesn't need one of these, but Baz is at a new level. And then these need that, but this bar is an array. So yeah, so that goes there like that. And then this one was going to be do, and then this is going to be red thing and blue thing. So just kind of manually doing it by hand here to kind of see. Yeah, the spacing on this is going to be rather obnoxious. Especially, you know, if we're trying to do an array, we basically have to figure out how do we pad everything properly so that whatever this amount of space is, if we're printing out an object that's that deep, that we're going to need that amount of space. Anyway, so I think I'm pretty much going to quit right about here rather than go through this, because I think that to get this right, I mean, basically got the gist of it within 15, 20 minutes. And then the rest is going to be, okay, now I need to figure out how to pass spacing. So I'm going to have to pass in, say, prefix here. And then we're going to say prefix is equal to an empty string, because when we start it's an empty string. And then I would have to increase the prefix here. You know, so I'd have to do prefix plus maybe 2 spaces or something. And so then this would need to be, you know, here. This is going to be wrong, but just for demonstration, I'll go this far to print it out. And then here we'd need to have the prefix as well. And then we'd have to do something with new lines. But yeah, this way, every time we call to YAML, we need to be passing in the prefix and then probably 2 more spaces. Let's just see what this prints out. I should use my brain and be able to tell you what it's going to print out beforehand. I don't really know. It's going to be janky, kind of like that, but it's going to look a little better. So the new lines aren't in the right places. The prefixes for the spaces. Yeah, so basically if I could get the new lines, this is almost right. So let me just see if I could get the new lines real quick. So here, this one, everything here would need a new line. So basically, if I'm gonna add this, do I say we put a new line here? I'm just gonna try that out and see. Again, I should be able to tell you beforehand without just trying it out to see. I should be able to tell you what it's gonna look like. But we're almost there. So the new line's a little bit off in this case because I probably need to keep type information and pass that in and say, well, if this is an object, then I don't do a new line immediately. I do the new line. If it's an array, I do a new line immediately. And if it's an object, then I do the new line afterwards. So let me just try that real quick and then we'll call it done. So if it's an array, I do the new line immediately. Let's say like this. And then if it's an object, then I do the new line and the prefix, I think, afterwards. So new line and then prefix, is that the way that this would go? Let me try this out. Would it be new line and then prefix? And then we might have to do something where if it's the first one, we do it one way or the other way. Okay, so I've almost got it now. There's a couple places where there's not new lines. Right here where we have multiple object values, we've got a lot of extra new lines, but this is essentially it. Okay, so we're how long into this are we? Oh, by the way, I will answer this comment in just a second. Sorry, I didn't see that a moment ago. But so we're 36 minutes into the stream, and I pretty much have this done. There's minor formatting tweaks. I think that I might end up spending easily another half hour trying to figure this out. So that's why I said if somebody's a mid to senior level developer, they should be able to figure this out within about, oh, and I'm saying primitive there, sorry. I'm going to fix that real quick too, primitive. So what if we just get rid of this? And what if we just put in here, let's say prefix plus. Okay, that's wrong. That's wrong. Because the prefix goes before the line. So we kind of need to know what type of value it is to know whether or not we need to prefix it. But the prefix wouldn't go there for a bare value because something else is coming right before it. And then I don't know if we actually need the new line there. Okay, I need to stop doing this because I've proven the point. Oh, look at that. We're getting really, really close at this point. Really, really close. But I'm going to stop this. I'm not going to go any further with it. But this is why I'm saying, so me, I'm a super senior. I could probably get this done reasonably well with few to no bugs in about an hour. I would certainly expect someone that's less familiar to have to take more time, to not really, they're going to start out by iterating the object first rather than thinking what are the leaf nodes that I need to get to and then working backwards to the object. They may not have learned that process. I think that's something that you should learn in a boot camp or in school. I know most boot camps don't teach it. Schools kind of do. And then figuring out the spacing. There are some weird rules for the spacing, and so there's going to need to be possibly some special things passed in. I could see some people smarter than me getting this done in 15 minutes. I think those people are probably pretty few and far between, either whether you're counting by smarter or more experienced. I could see people easily taking 2 to 4 hours on this. But, if you're taking 2 to 4 hours on this and you're not getting it right, it's because you needed to take a break and just step away and think through the problem better. Anyway, so let me answer this question. All right, bye, Kyle. My manager asked me to search for the best way to comment code. Can you refer me to some nice resources? Sorry for asking too many questions. You're not asking too many questions. Totally appreciate the questions. I love it. Thank you so much. The best way to comment code depends. Which language are you using? I'm going to say that the best way to comment code is to choose good names for your variables and that you don't need comments. If you feel like you need, this is a good litmus test of comments in code. If you feel like you need a comment in the code, it's either because there's a very special situation that it's difficult to describe in any other way. It needs a paragraph. Normally this number would be 4. But because in certain situations there's a bug in the other system, sometimes we have to use 5. We have to use 5 if the number is divisible by 13. There would be something weird there where there's not really any other way to encapsulate that. You could put it in another function. You could say, figure out special number and call that a function, but you'd still need that comment with the function to help people understand why you're doing this weird thing between switching 4 and 5 in a way that doesn't make any sense. It's business logic. It has something to do not with the code, but with the interface, with the system, with what it's interacting with. And so I would say that typically you should only be commenting functions, and typically you can use the document formatter for the language. So for example, in JavaScript, you have JSDoc. Basically, it's just called whatever doc in every language. So it's going to be, PyDoc, JSDoc, RustDoc, GoDoc, etc. And you should just use that standard format. They all look fairly similar. There are some nuanced differences between them that are specific to the language, but essentially they look the same, right? So that's what I'd say for commenting code. If you start commenting code in the middle of a function, it's a good indicator that you need to create a new function and that stuff needs to be handled in a function. Like I said, there's special circumstances where it makes sense that you just want to have a short one-line description of something. Oftentimes, that can be summed up in a better variable name. So I'll give you an example of this that's right here in this project. Just going to say open read only, and we're going to go to, there's a to-do. Don't import completed items. This is kind of self-evident, but just, kind of be clear. Why are we returning here if it's inactive? Because it might be a completed item, whatever. Actually, I think it's in this file. So here we go. So this right here, if completed is item state, item._inactive is what this is saying here. And then when I look at the if statement, so notice I make this assignment here. I give it this property _inactive, and then I say if inactive and don't include inactive, skip completed tasks. That comment doesn't need to be there anymore, I don't think, really. But this right here, just having this on a separate line, because if you were to do this, if you do it like this, it becomes a little bit less clear to read. But if you can, in your if statements, if you keep your if statements simple, if should be on a single line and should be fairly short and should read more or less Englishy. So your if statements, if you just take what's in your if statements and turn it into variables instead, and I think I've done this a number of times in this one. Let's see. Maybe not. Maybe not in here. Maybe it was in the other file. I was working on a project recently where I did this quite a bit. So yeah. So this is one. So we could say here. Well, I'm just going to go to another place where. So look at the difference between this. If title is not equal to title, then change true. Blah blah blah. Look how much more clear it reads. The same type of thing, but I did it slightly different, slightly better here. Should be closed is complete is the item state. Is closed is the issue state. If should be closed and isn't closed, changes true, update, store, etc. So this is a good example where if you just use better variable names and more variables, then you don't need comments in the code because the code becomes self-documenting. Hopefully that answers the question a little bit. Hello to everybody joining in. Welcome. I'm AJ O'Neill. So I started with this. Just give you a quick recap. Kind of going over, I don't know whether it was a trolling response or serious, and I don't want to judge the guy either way. But I started out with this tweet, and then went on a little exploration of could I code this by hand myself, and now I'm answering some questions. So if you'd like to ask some questions, feel free. But the overarching thing here, and thank you for joining in. If you find this to be entertaining or useful or enlightening, please consider a like and a sub if you want to. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life, but the main thing I was trying to discuss is we've got some holes in software development where people are not learning basic things. People that have 4 or 5 years in the industry don't know how to loop over an object. Well, that might be a little bit of exaggeration. No, it's not an exaggeration. There are definitely people that have 4 or 5 years in the industry that have trouble looping over objects. So it's something is going wrong, and I want to I want to discuss that. I want to get a little bit of a larger panel to see if we can generate some ideas. And is there something to help? Also, I don't want to name any names because some of these people are people that I respect. Certainly on a personal level, if not, I have some questions about the way that they do their business and whatnot. But there's people on Twitter and TikTok and all these platforms that I don't know how to say this. They do teach people how to code, but they themselves don't really know how to code well. They understand just enough to be dangerous and just enough for someone to find them to be useful, but they don't actually understand what they're doing. And it's evident when you look at some of their material. There's somebody who's not a prominent figure who wrote a blog on how to convert between different bases of numbers and gave a completely incorrect solution. I've talked about incorrect solutions before. Stack Overflow did a study and found that 50% of the accepted answers don't work. And when I say did a study, they basically used some metrics to see how many times people would go back and revisit the post or scroll or whatever to determine that people are obviously not satisfied with the accepted answer. So the people came to Stack Overflow, they saw the accepted answer, they looked at it for some amount of time, they come back to Stack Overflow and they're looking again at the same question or a very similar question. So Stack Overflow's metrics say that 50% of accepted, so you've no better than a coin toss that when you go to Stack Overflow that the accepted answer is going to work for you. So I'm going to see if I can find the Stack Overflow accepted answer 50%. Let's see if this. All right. This is from their blog? Yeah, so they ran this experiment. They conducted a test. This is a good one here. So I'm going to put this on my Creeds of Craftsmanship as well. So if you just copy and paste code from Stack Overflow 50% of the time. Okay. Yeah. So it looks like it may have even been worse than 50%. Anyway, I'll give you the link to this if you want to read through. This is kind of their blog article on the subject. SO 50% of accepted answers are bad. That's the TLDR of that link. So anyway, it's just, I think the software industry is somewhat like a cancer, not in the meme sense, but in the medical sense. You have an area of growth that's growing too fast. The body's not responding to it properly. It gets out of control and it starts to do harm. And I think that is what the software industry is kind of at right now, is that there's this big boom. It's growing too fast. The industry is not responding appropriately to the problems within the industry. And it is becoming cancerous, where we have people can't do really basic things. Like I said, converting JSON to YAML, I could understand you spend maybe a whole day on it if you're a new developer and you need to reach out for some help. But you should be able to write that by hand like you saw me do. I got the gist of it in 15 minutes, and like I said, it'd probably take me another hour to flesh out everything to get it just right. But I had the basic structure. It was printing out the objects in order. It was traversing the tree correctly. Just a matter of the white space is bad. And there's a couple of special rules for the white space. It would take a little bit of, it shouldn't be guess and check. It should be methodical. You should be able to think it out in your head first, predict what's going to happen, and then notice if, I wasn't thinking clearly. I wasn't thinking that the space needs to be in front, or the space needs to be behind, or the new line needs to be handled differently in this case or that case. But you should be able to think out a problem, come up with a reasoned solution, and get through it. And I'm going to say what nobody that's marketing on Twitter and on TikTok is going to say. Software development's not for everyone. They say, yeah, anybody can become a software developer. No, not anybody can. If you don't get math, it's not a problem. You can become a software developer. Okay, I don't use calculus in my day job, right? But you should understand basic algebra. That's literally what programming is you're doing variable substitution, and you're trying to solve for variables. That is literally, if you did well at algebra and physics, I would see no reason that you wouldn't be a good coder, because that is what coding is. It's a defined set of rules, which we call algorithms, and you are doing substitution on variables, and you're trying to solve for certain variables and return certain results. That is it. So no, it's not the numbers, but substitute numbers for strings and arrays, etc. It's still sets, it's still collections, it's still all those things. So anyway, yeah. But I'd love to get some more people on this. If you know somebody that maybe I could bring on, or maybe I could go on with them, I'd love to know. Give a comment about it. Make a comment about it. If you want to join in on Beyond Code Live, if you'd like to be part of that discussion, here's a link to the Discord again. And then I'm gonna hop off and move on to something else. But if anybody's got any additional questions or thoughts or things that we could dig into right now, I'd love to do it. So I'll just wait, maybe 20 more seconds and see if anything pops up. And if not, I'll end my rant, and we will resume at another time. Yeah, I don't, would it be rude? It can't be rude. Can't be rude to ask a question sincerely. But I don't want to appear like an a-hole, because sometimes I do, and I do it on purpose, and that's okay. But I honestly don't know if this person is trolling me or not. Again, with the misspelling. Misspelling could be English, could be lack of attention to detail, or it could just be trolling. And if it is trolling, again, it's just so close to what's going on in the industry right now that I can't tell. Yeah, And there's no reason to be using the more I look at this, the more I think it's trolling. I kind of explained the basic situation to my wife, and she said it's probably trolling. So I don't know. I think I am going to ask. Oh, not with this account, with my other account. Anyway, I don't see any more questions, so I'm going to head out. Thanks for joining in again. Like if you want to. Thumbs down if you don't want to. Share with someone you like if you liked it, or someone you don't like if you didn't like it. And I'll catch you around 5K subs for my birthday. That's what we're trying to hit. It's only 6 months away. So, sub for my birthday, or follow if you're on Twitch. All that said, no, it's the other way around. With all that said, adios. Yeah, I used to have the click down. It was adios. Yeah, like that. And then at the same time, I hit the button to do this.